Hello and welcome back to the Store Hero podcast. This week we're joined by Conor Sunderland, co-founder at Kensington Media. Conor, welcome to the show.
Thomas, thanks very much for having me. Great to be here. Very excited.
Really looking forward to diving into a few bits. I suppose regular tradition on the show, if you could just kind of introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
For certain, yeah. So my name's Conor. I'm of course from Ireland as well as yourself. The accents are quite a dead giveaway. Not from too far apart. Just reverse the colours there for us there. The Tipperary man here and the Clare man there. So yeah. So basically, yeah, Irish. Run Kensington Media House, co-founder, CMO there. So what we sort of do at a high level. So retention marketing for kind of 7 to 9 figure direct to consumer brands. So running their email marketing end to end, sort of design, copy, strategy, deliverability, list growth, and some other cool stuff there along with SMS. And yeah, quite a complex service offering in many respects. We kind of do that for about 40 brands now at this point. And yeah, that's kind of the high level in terms of what we do. So all like kind of the e-commerce, email, and SMS marketing sort of side of things. Kind of began that now. It's coming up on 3 years ago. With my business partner, also Conor. And yeah, before we were kind of doing our own stuff, a little bit disjointed, a little bit more freelance kind of style. And then when we teamed up, we had sort of, I suppose, very complementary skill sets and personality types, which then kind of led to, 1 + 1 equaling 5, kind of leading in the right direction together. So that sort of came about, I would guess, summer 2021. I think we really officially kicked off at August 20. Takes us up to now, where we are here in April 2024. Geez, time flies.
Bit of a time warp. In terms of the clients you're working with, so you mentioned about 40 now. Is that correct?
Yeah, they give or take. I think high 30s. I think
I remember chatting to Conor a couple of months ago. Not many of them are actually in Ireland, if I'm not mistaken, are they?
I think about three are Irish, and then we've a good number in the UK. But yeah, a vast majority for us to be in the US market. That's kind of, e-com, I think, is just so advanced in the US. And, I think the US has some interesting characteristics just as a market, which kind of makes it far different to even the UK. When you kind of get these differences between those two countries, I think if we take them just because they're kind of English speaking and I guess somewhat culturally comparable in a sense, is that the US, when you say it's like 5 times bigger population wise, give or take 5.5 times, I think, bigger than the UK, you don't get just the UK times 5.5. What you get is sort of something that's qualitatively a lot different because of that size. What also happens, and I noticed this because I was in the US a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned this a number of times on Twitter, but I abjectly distrust global GDP statistics. I think the US is the richest country in the world by a massive margin. Obviously in Ireland, we know it's massively distorted because we have that sort of like barnacle on the whale style economy of just trying to attract massive American companies in by violating international tax laws. Essentially, that's like half the economy. This is just subjectively the case, so that kind of barnacle on the whale style where there's all this money just in these bank accounts kind of a thing, and then it says like the average GDP in Ireland's like over $100,000, which we all know is absolutely not the case. It's probably more in the 40 sort of range or something like that, maybe not even. And so you go over to the US and you just see kind of all this wealth, and you also like the average person there earns like maybe like 75, like legit average person there probably earns like 75K on average, which is just unheard of anywhere else in the world. And then because of that and because of the population size, what happens is all these niche markets, there's all these really niche markets which also have money, right? So the US also, because of that sort of like laissez-faire, be who you are kind of thing, which still is there, maybe not to the extent it used to be, but it's definitely still present there more than anywhere else in the world, is like you could take a brand in like the cowboy clothing niche and take it to 10 million a year in the US. You would not take, I don't know what the equivalent is in the UK, like a Roadman clothing company or whatever in the UK. I don't know. I don't know if Roadman exactly have a lot of money now, but I don't think you take that up to that same level of scale. So like basically in e-com in the US, you have so many brands and you can have them in almost some of the most niche industries possible, and they're scaling. So I was absolutely not your question, but it just definitely one of my kind of theses on why I think the US is so advanced in e-com. Also like one massive connected market. It's like the EU if it all spoke English and had twice the money. because it's it's that kind of way as well. All one single market obviously massively helps it as well.
100%. I mean, I was at Shopify for a number of years in support, and you'd be surprised at some of the tickets that would come in, and you just see the location, and then you'd see like the revenue size of the store, and you look into what they're selling, you're like, oh my god, like this, a company like this would just never fly in Ireland or the UK or Europe for that matter. It could be the most abstract, random toy or just whatever, and it's somehow managed to gain like significant traction. You'd be looking at it, being like, oh my god. So I just can't understate what you said there. It's just so important.
Greatest country in the world, and it's not close. It's not. It's literally not close. I don't even think it's like, it's nothing in the running there. I think it's just such a remarkable place. I love the States.
So you mentioned you were there quite recently, and I mean, just one other thing I'd like to kind of bring up. Obviously, you kind of work remotely. You've been quite vocal on Twitter. One of your tweets recently is kind of outlined your recent move to Barcelona. So you kind of said, best feeling ever knowing that I never have to go back to Dubai and can spend all the time I want in Europe. Never felt right there, and I think many more people will start to leave. Keen to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Jesus. So I think you have, I suppose on Twitter primarily, you kind of have Dubai be presented as this panacea for everyone. Go to Dubai, and obviously you have the tax benefits there, and the think bigger and all this kind of thing. It's so good to be around people reminding you that you're doing nothing. And then I'm like, also that's obviously it has its negatives. There's a terribly uncool archetype on Twitter that's like, walked outside my building in Dubai and saw a Rolls Royce, I need to work harder, wolf emoji. That's like there's kind of an archetype for that. And that's just not me. And so it's kind of like, go over there, get the tax benefits, sunlight, network with all these people, and, go to luxury places and all the rest of it. But these things are it's a very sterile place, I would say, on the whole. So there, for everything in life, there are very few things in life, very few options that are like objectively better than others in every way. And as a result, you kind of lose certain things by going into those sterile environments. You sort of lose some of the unevenness that makes life what it is. I mean, almost like the flaws in a place are almost what can be loved about it the most. When you actually think about it, same with the person, same thing there. I won't get too esoteric for you now. I'll go into the actual tangibles of Dubai. But essentially, like when I first went there, it's presented this way on Twitter. So you think automatically this is the place I must go, and you kind of don't look at other places. But there are so many options out there. Like, let's say you want to do the tax thing. There's so many options out there. There's so many ways to skin a cat, as I say. And I think there's a huge swathe of people on Twitter, and I would say this insulting myself from last year as well, that are kind of looking to just outsource their beliefs and outsource their sense of agency to other people. And I think the mass migration to Dubai and like people just kind of doing that thing, a lot of people over there who I talked to, like none of them are that happy. Like, as in a lot of the people, they do their 90 days mandatory, they have to do there, then they're out right away. I was this person last year. So it kind of goes to show, right? Like, for me, if I'm unhappy in a place, right, start the business for freedom above all. That's what I'm optimizing for as a human being, is freedom. So if I have to be somewhere 90 days a year, 90 days sounds minimal, but you build your whole year around it. Because bear in mind, there's a huge chunk of the year in Dubai where you physically can't be there because it's too hot, especially if you're Irish. I mean, I literally look like Casper the Ghost, right? And like literally, I couldn't even go outside for 5 minutes in July there. Like, honestly, that's no exaggeration. 5 minutes in that sun in Dubai, I'd be cooked. Now, I think because of that, it's always on your mind. It's always like, I have to fit my days in here. I have to do this here. I have to do this here. And I can't be there at that time. And then I have these events that I want to be at home for. So you have there's this elephant in the room all the time when you're planning your time. So it takes away your sense of freedom. And I think not realizing that, it goes to show, just because you have some things going for you, or just because your business is going all right, or just because you have a bit of money, it doesn't mean you're not an NPC. Like when there are many kinds of NPC, and like, I definitely embodied that for a bit of last year when I was going there. But I mean, there's so many negatives, right? Like, so it's extremely expensive. Like, you can't leave your house without spending like €40, right? And then you have kind of like the air quality is awful. Like, when you look at the sun, right, in the palm, it actually doesn't set in the horizon. It sets a bit above because of the smog. Like, as in, it's an optical illusion. Of course, it sets in the horizon, but it looks as though it sets about, depending on where you are, about like an inch above the horizon. Which is really weird to think about. So I'd get random nosebleeds when I was in Dubai. Sometimes I get headaches. My skin started getting really bad. my skin was always like not the best growing up, but I got on Roaccutane as a result of being there, because my skin used to just break out with whatever was in the air and whatever was in the food. And I then kind of I'd I'm still on the Roaccutane, but the side effects that I thought I had side effects from it, and all the side effects went when I left Dubai. My eyes stopped hurting, my lips weren't dry. I didn't feel this kind of heat in the back of my head where my hair follicles like are in the back of my head. These are niche side effects from Roaccutane now, but like you feel them in Dubai.
And did you feel like they benefited from the network over there? Like what? Because you do see a lot of specifically e-com founders, agency owners. There's a lot of people within the network that do seem to be bouncing around different events in Dubai.
You would do, yeah, but I mean, you can do enough networking as well, right? I suppose in terms of just from Dubai, I met one person in particular who will be a friend until the day I die, for sure, who I would not have met if it weren't for that. But it doesn't. You will meet people, but you don't meet them in the context of being friends for life, because no one lives there year round. No one, even if you like the place, you don't live there year round. You're in Dubai in July and August. So quite often what happens in those interactions is like you're meeting someone, but it's kind of like, because yeah, exactly. It's like a prisoner's dilemma game, right? So if you put it into short-term dynamic, it's like, how can I maximize my own gain and minimize yours? So then basically it's like, it's a very status oriented, what can you do for me immediately kind of connection. It's not like, all right, met this person, we click, this is going to be someone who I'm very close with for years to come. And yeah, it's just, I'd say highly transactional would kind of be something that comes to mind there. So yeah, you can meet lots of people, but kind of mostly at a surface level, I would say.
Yeah, it does just strike me as a very Instagrammable type place that you can get a lot of envy if you're not fully there, but maybe being there doesn't live up to the expectation of what your original perception of the place might be.
100 to jump in there, right? Some people do like it, like genuinely like it, great. Like as in, if I don't particularly like the place, but like if you do and you're living there and you enjoy it, like disregard what I'm saying, right? Like as in, it's just like it's for everyone else to try. Like equally, like I said, like having money doesn't mean you're not an NPC. It's like that doesn't mean just now take all of my beliefs on as well, right? It just means like if you want to embody that advice, just think for yourself, right? Like do you actually enjoy it or not? But I think a lot of people, like, especially because I took the beer goggles off of not having to be there 90 days per year, and the second I had almost worked in this kind of cope into how I was thinking about it, because I knew I'd have to be there 90 days a year for the next 3 years, where I'm like, oh, Dubai has good sides of it. I actually like being there for a time. And now that I don't have to go back there, I can just breathe a sigh of relief and be like, fuck that place, bro. I wouldn't even visit there. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, the way I likened it to, right, is like, it's kind of like a theme park, right? Alton Towers is great to visit, right? But you should not live in Alton Towers. Like, it's like after a while, it would actually wreck your head to live in Alton Towers. It's kind of, because of that sameness, and like of the weather, but also of the people, if I'm calling a spade, right? Like it's kind of almost a lot of people are just a remix of the same personality. Not a particularly good remix either, like, do you know what I mean?
So you won't be getting any email marketing gigs from the tourism board of Dubai anyway.
Definitely not, mate. Definitely not. Like, might not be that back into the place. But it's kind of like the way I felt at some point. I remember I started calling it True Buy, like back in like last April or May. The reason was that, or sorry, this would have been like over a year ago now, I coined that, was because of that sameness every single day. Like I said, some of like the variation and some of like the cracks and flaws that you see in life are actually what make it what it is. It's what makes it's real.
Yeah.
Without those, like, you start feeling like you're living in the Truman Show. If you've seen that film with Jim Carrey, like you start feeling like you're on a film set and there's like a social experiment being played on you. I remember this one day, sorry, now we'll get off this topic now. I have so much to say on it, but like I remember I was sitting down by the marina. So I used to live just on the water in the marina this time last year. And I went down to this cafe where I used to do a lot of work at. I was sitting outside and was working away. And there was, so like we said, there are many kinds of NPCs. So I call this the Russian bimbo mother NPC, right? Like this is a Dubai, this species is native to Dubai. And it's basically this girl was sitting there. She's a young enough mother. She had her 2 daughters there beside her. She had this like Fendi tube bra on, big fish lips that had so much filler in there, the proper like Deadliest Catch kind of spec. And we had like a cap on that was like Gucci or Prada or something, and these like these kind of like gym shorts that were way too short, and then like big Dino Stomper kind of trainers on her. And she's just there on her phone, like scrolling along on Instagram, and her daughters are like fighting each other. Like they're sitting down, they're maybe 5 and 7, age wise. They're like throwing food at each other, sitting outside of this cafe. And this lady's not looking up, just like staring, fluoride stare, going through her Instagram. And then I swear, right, I'm looking out the corner of my eye, and I'm like, is she seriously not stopping her daughters from like literally having a fight here at a cafe? And then a crow flies onto the table and takes like the bulk of the food off the smaller one's plate and flies off, like literally grabs it with its talons, and then flies off. And all the while the mother doesn't look up off her phone, and the kid starts crying. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, that didn't just happen. I'm like, that's actually that's when I was like, this is the Truman Show. Yeah, Jesus Christ. I was like, this is the Truman Show, really. Yeah, of course that can happen everywhere. That can happen everywhere, right? Like there are such people everywhere, but definitely that was one where I was like, Jesus Christ, this place is a social experiment.
Definitely a unique one anyway, for sure. So I suppose, look, you're up to 40 merchants, 40 kind of clients now. I suppose you're in operation 3 years. I followed you guys, both of you, on Twitter for a long time. Obviously, you've kind of kicked off your own YouTube podcast, similar to ourselves as well. You definitely have a lot more followers than we do at this point in time, but hopefully we'll get there at some stage. Has building the personal brand been instrumental to growing the agency, or how has that kind of helped? Or do you find, like, 'cause often I speak to people and they're like, no, I don't want to build a personal brand. I don't want to put out my best work because then people can rob it or people can copy it, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a believer of that, but I think you guys have put out a ton of really, really good, valuable content over the last couple of years. But I would imagine that has meant a lot of inbound deals for you guys coming in as a result of the content that you tend to put out there.
Yeah, it definitely has. And I mean, that other point of view where it's kind of like, oh, people are going to steal our stuff, that definitely does happen. Like, I mean, like that used to really jar me probably somewhere 2022 or so, going on to late 2022, to the point where I kind of like stopped posting, really for over a year ago, because I was like, geez, people are just like ripping my stuff. And it's so obvious, because there are certain things that we've coined in email marketing that are absolutely ours, or I'll put my hand up and say, I didn't know other people made these and we really popularized them, but we had independently come up with these ourselves. The micro commitment yes no pop up, that's a KMH special. The cart split in abandoned checkout to increase conversion rate for the free shipping split, but depending on cart value, because you're not going to give an incentive early on, but you can give them free shipping, which they're going to get anyway. That's a KMH special. Long flows, that's a KMH special. Do you know, like the second tier incentive in flows with a time or with a time limit on it, that's a KMH special. And then so it like there are certain things like that where, like, when people started ripping it, I was like, obviously you've just seen my stuff and ripped it. Because they're very obvious things where I'm like, no one talks about that but me. So obviously you've gotten that from there. But like, you kind of just have to
flattery at the same time.
It is, and you kind of just have to get on with there. So there's certain things I don't share, like let's say how we audit accounts and that kind of thing. Like the way we audit, like that's like one of so many deals, because like we go into such depth, but they're so clear. That is something I would never share, like, because that's real alpha. There are certain things where actually they are essential to how our business functions, and I would just never share them with really anyone. And they've gotten there through like just years of tinkering. But yeah, the personal brand, I suppose, has helped. Twitter really was very good for a time. We're putting a bit more stock into YouTube and things like that now. But kind of, I think what happens then is really like referrals from your existing clients and people knowing that you do good work. Like that's really I suppose, almost the best inbound method of client acquisition. I think what's great for Twitter is a great place to just meet friends more than anything. So I think putting out the highly technical, here's how you do XYZ content, one, I absolutely hate making it, and two, it's it
lands you in more hot water and arguments than anything else.
I think you actually miss out on what the best part of Twitter is, which is like the asymmetric upside potential of the platform. So you can meet that one person. Like, we've one client who's referred us like 6 clients in the last like 10 months or so, and like that was from Twitter. And like, we actually, the first time they'd send us a referral, we weren't even working with them. They were actually working with another agency, but they were still in a contract. But we'd gone through and audited the account. And he was like, Jesus Christ, this is pretty insane. And then we're like, yeah, like we could do this for you. He's like, no, I have 2 months left with this crowd. We don't do any of those like long contracts kind of things, but I know a lot of people do. Sure. And so he was locked into that. And then he had referred us the first deal before he even began working with us. And then we were getting really good results for the first person, still are. Getting really good results for him, still are. And that moved on. So let's say like that's like one person that you've met from there who you just had as a friend, and like we were giving him free advice and stuff like that, and I would send him free resources we had made internally and things like that.
Yeah.
And then that's obviously an asymmetric upside potential. So, you know, there are people on Twitter who are anonymous and they're like a Pepe emoji and they're doing like 30 million a year as like an affiliate or something in e-com. Do you know, like those people really are out there, trust me. And
back to the Truman Show.
Yeah, back to the Truman Show is right. And yeah, like, so that's what Twitter is for. I think you're playing that sort of like linear, let's try and get someone to book a my Calendly link kind of game when you're posting highly technical content. But if you're just being like a genuine sort of kind of being who you are, like hopefully be a good version of yourself, and then be who you are. You can start to meet some really good people, which can land you into some very, very good positions. And I think that's what I'm kind of using Twitter for a bit more so now. And also like,
what's the goal with say YouTube as opposed to Twitter? Like with YouTube, yeah, I suppose YouTube as opposed to Twitter. Is it to try and build a personal brand? Is it to try and get the agency out there more, or just to kind of have good people on the podcast and have good conversations like we're having here?
Oh, the personal YouTube. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I suppose with the YouTube, we're doing KMH YouTube as well. Like we do like a lot of content through the agency. I think a big thing there with the personal YouTube. So like I was saying, you know, I would say I'm quite a multifaceted individual. Like I don't want to just be like the email guy. I think, sure, you know, I wouldn't want like Klaviyo goal partner be the only thing on my tombstone. Like, do you know what I mean? So I'd want more things about me. And so, you know, a lot of my spare time, like for instance, there Saturday night, Conor G was lolling at me because I sacked off a day to go and listen to a podcast on like 16th to 19th century Portuguese colonial history and just go and getting on a screens here in Barcelona. I was like, I actually can't be arsed meeting you. Like,
on a screens.
Ooh la la. But like for me, I've like very niche interests, like, you know, very, very, very niche interests. As in, if you like, for people who know me, they know I just have extremely niche general knowledge about the most.
She must have been delighted with you when you told her the summary of the podcast.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, Christ Almighty. I know. Yeah, actually, yeah, Brazilian one as well. So yeah, actually, maybe I probably know more about Brazilian history than her as well. So there you go. Big connection to Portugal. But yeah. So you know, for me with the podcast, it's just to talk to people that I find interesting and kind of have more of those asymmetric upside opportunities. You know, I think like, it's not something that I have like very explicit goals with. And I think there are many things I do that I don't want to have explicit goals with, because like we talk about with people going over to Dubai, if we take that example again, it's like, yeah, you save the tax and you meet all these people and you get to go and you have like, you go to this place and you get a nice steak and you put that in your story. It's like, you know, not everything in life's a fucking equation, bro. You know what I mean? Like doing the podcast and that, it is just like intrinsic enjoyment. Like there are people I've like literally canceled the podcast with because it's like, you know, it's, let's say it's someone just wants to talk like agency stuff. I'm like, look, mate, I'm kind of fucking sick of talking that. If I'm honest with you, like, let me get on. You know, I'd rather get on some ex London gang member or something like that and actually chat to that. I'm big into like gang and like mafia books and stuff like that as well. So yeah, I'd rather get on someone like that and just talk about, all right, like this person is like a proven murderer and stuff like that in front of me, but they're like reformed, they've come around and whatever. And I'd like to talk about that person's life, what made them how they are. So it's just like that intrinsic enjoyment. And then, you know, down the line, maybe it can be something big. I wouldn't expect that to be the case for like another 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is. But yeah, that's kind of more so the goal with that. And it's kind of why we've kind of moved away from some of the email content on Twitter. I've something that I will be doing, which I actually can't, like, personal brand wise, which I actually won't share because it's actually this is probably the best idea I've had in the last 8 months. And that we will be doing to get some of that upside on Twitter, but it won't be my personal. My personal will just be kind of something a bit different for my. It'll literally just be like off the dome kind of tweets. Like I've, you know, an essay on why I left Dubai and why I brought things back to Europe, you know, or an essay on, you know, I had my USA trip the last 2 weeks, the differences culturally between the US and Europe, for argument's sake, and like that's like. I would just enjoy writing that for its own sake, you know, and that's kind of
nice to kind of look back on in a couple of years' time as well, I'm sure as well.
Oh yeah,
definitely. So I suppose you onboard a brand. I suppose it's no secret, e-com has definitely got, you know, much tougher for a lot of brands. I'm sure since you would have started, you know, going back 3 years ago. What are we in April of 2021? Absolute boom times for e-com. Everything was not going to say easy, but everyone was winning. You know, that isn't the case anymore. I think about a month later than 3 years ago was May 2021. iOS 14 kicked in, and things have changed quite profoundly since then. Curious to understand, I suppose, like what changes have you seen in ecom maybe over the last 3 years, or what trends, positive or negative, do you tend to see with a lot of brands? Obviously, 40 brands, mainly across the US, but also across Europe as well. It's a good kind of audience size, I suppose, to maybe see some common trends and pitfalls.
Yeah, damn. I mean, I actually made something on this recently where I kind of walked through like different brands that we're seeing like kind of win compared to others. I think there's one thing that immediately sticks in my craw that I would say has been almost like the main difference that we'd probably have seen in the last couple of years between brands that have kind of stayed going here in 2024 and haven't and kind of haven't fallen off, let's say, as much as some people have from their 2021 kind of highs. Big thing there is like if someone has like a lean mentality and low OpEx, that is like absolutely a trend that we see across nearly all of our brands now, as in like they have maybe a couple of people in their head office, then they've of course like their warehouse staff or 3PL or whatever it is. They've like an ads agency, an email agency, someone doing creatives, and that's basically it. Like that's almost their whole team. So obviously you wouldn't need a 4x on.
I think we actually have a shared client who is literally operating literally like that. He's basically running the brand with his wife. Really good brand, knocking it out of the park. But the OpEx side of the business is just so lean.
I know who it is. I think in Ireland.
No, not in Ireland. No, in the States. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know who it is as well. Okay, got it. Yeah. So like from there, it's like if you look at that, right? Like you obviously wouldn't need a 4x on Meta if OpEx wasn't like 50% of your revenue, right? Like that would be like that. Like it seems obvious when you put it that way. But the best brands keep it simple, no bloat, that kind of thing. I would actually notice as well, right? So this also a bit niche, but they have characteristics that I would say lower blended impression costs. So these are like two things that do this. So like I'm going to coin this term like blended we'll call it blended impression cost. Let's say I'm coining this term now. Maybe someone else has coined it, but like let's say this is another KMH original. Let's say you have one brand where there is virality potential. So let's take a good friend of mine who's actually been on the podcast, Conor Martin, who runs a big brand called the Essence Vault. They're a big
statement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're smashing it. But they have this like really ingrained into them, right? So there's virality potential with the product because it's very shareable with your friends. Have you seen this? The Essence Vault, it's because you're getting this incredible offer. You're going to buy fragrance anyway, and you're going to have a great experience, far lower cost, and it's kind of like there's almost a sensational aspect to finding that out. You look at like Liquid Death, for example, it's quite literally water, but like the branding made it so people kind of talk about the brand. It gives this virality potential. This serves to lower your blended impression cost. This could be through product design in Liquid Death's case, or just through the inherent value of the product in the Essence Vault's case. And then you kind of couple that with strong email and SMS marketing channels. So like really, really strong, aggressive email and SMS marketing channels. What happens is like if you take a brand that doesn't have any virality potential and has weak email and SMS, and you take one that has strong virality potential, strong email and SMS, and they're both spending loads on ads on like Meta and Google, brand one is grinding out every impression paid. And that's an inherently entropic like uphill battle that you're finding there. It's rolling a stone up the hill. And this in the second brand's case, what's happening is that they sort of have this invisible hand in the market that's helping them push down their costs all the time because people are sharing it with one another, and also they're just smashing emails to get people to buy again. So like those are two big things we're noticing is like people really lean kind of like low OpEx mentality, and then kind of with they've a couple of characteristics which are like drive down the blended impression cost. And then I suppose the other thing as well, like there's like lack of ego, always like never stop learning. Like you can take actually Conor Martin from the Essence Vault. Like he's a great example of this as well. Like he's great crack, great guy, but he's like no ego. He's just always trying to learn about all aspects of the business all the time. And then
so important.
Exactly, so important. And then great financials, like would be a good one. Like people actually understand finance now. Like the best founders understand finance. A lot of people don't, and like they suffer heavily for that.
I think to your second point there is one that's like, how do I even put this right? I think it's one that's been allowed to be skipped. Well, maybe not right now, but in the last like 4 or 5 years, just when, CPAs were so cheap on Facebook and Google for such a long time, you didn't really need to build a brand or think about that viral component needing to be kind of built into the product because you could get away with just pumping money into Facebook and Google and it all worked. But now the best businesses, are thinking about that. And that the invisible hand you kind of mentioned there, I think is a really nice way to put it. You're almost building that distribution component into the product from day one, into the brand, and the brand and the product then obviously kind of distribute themselves, which is such a key component. And I just think a lot of brands have kind of skipped the brand part of the brand, which sounds a bit nuts to say, but I think it's true. And I think that is kind of biting them in the ass now with just inflated CAC and inflated CPAs on Facebook and Google, which in a lot of cases, unfortunately, is leading the business to be unsustainable. And it can be too little too late to go and try and change this at such a later time in the business. I think you're right, though, in the last point there as well. Financials, weirdly enough, probably related to the same point, to be honest with you, are now very much understood by the majority of e-com brands. And again, I think years of cheap CAC and ROAS just probably enabled terrible habits in the industry where you could just pump money into these channels and, the margins and the OPEX just took care of themselves because the CAC was so good for such a long time. But obviously that's just not the case anymore. And it's just a big shift happening. I think that, for the first time, people are really, not for the first time in a lot of cases, but in a lot of cases, yes, they're really starting to have to understand all of the financial levers at their disposal and not just look at marketing as a Facebook arbitrage game.
Yeah, 100%. Like you look at those opportunities, like businesses are often started out of an opportunity. So many of these brands, they started out of that Facebook opportunity, that arbitrage opportunity you just spoke of. But you have to evolve off of that. Like these things don't last forever. Same thing, like a lot of agencies started off the cold email arbitrage of like 3 years ago. Now that's done. So like, what are you doing now? So yeah, you enter with arbitrage, but you then have to sort of diversify to sort of save yourself and make sure that you're not overly reliant on any one channel. Like, don't get me wrong, of course, still Meta is like it's absolutely the daddy, it's the mother, it's the whole family, really. It is of course number one. Brands then, like you'll see they do build out other channels. They have that virality potential. Maybe they even build out a bit of a wholesale channel, or they build out a B2B channel. They're getting into stores around different places, and it's it does obviously that has to be done right. That has to be done the right way also. But that's, you can't always just be relying on an arbitrage opportunity. Your business will fold eventually.
100%. Right, you onboard a client. I know you don't want to go too deep into maybe the audit side of things, but typically, what are the three biggest problems in a Klaviyo account that you guys tend to encounter? What are the most common pitfalls that are often easy opportunities or can be the biggest lever movers for a brand?
100%. So I was actually just on a call right before this where I was just chatting through this person. It was like a paid consult that they came onto, and it was they were basically just wanted to walk through a couple of things in their account, and I was showing them exactly my framework in terms of how to walk through an account and basically analyze where there's underperformance. So I walked through 4 things. Flows and campaigns are the last 2. So email marketing is not a particularly sexy topic, let's say, but if there's anything sexy about it, it would be flows and campaigns. It's immediately what you think about when you think about email marketing. So what I'd actually walked through with them was how the kind of process that you walk through is really everything. So, I walked through kind of a glossary of all the terms that I was going to be talking about with them. But the first thing I did was I went straight to campaigns, because what I want to see first is deliverability. So the first thing that you want to see, the reason why we do that is because it's upstream of everything else, right? So we want to first analyze, are we actually getting into people's inboxes first? Because that's gonna come ahead of everything. So, you can have obviously the best flows in the world, but it doesn't matter how good they are if half of your sends are landing in spam. And like we would see that actually a fair bit. So what we wanted to do, so we have kind of, the key is we want to be hitting at least 30% open rates on a segment that's more than 50% of the list. This would generally correspond to like a 180-day engaged segment. But we want to be really, like, for internally for our own clients, we want to be seeing that about 40%. But just for this person, just to make sure it's not absolutely up the swanny, we want to make sure we're above 30. If they're below 30 or below 20, even we're like, Jesus, this is a big problem. This needs to be fixed ASAP. So we've a couple of ways that we'd fix that, which I can go into in terms of rehabbing an account from there. But the first thing you just want to go in and say, okay, is deliverability in a good spot? How strong is our deliverability and our reputation? If that's really strong, we're in a good spot. We can move on to the next part, which is list growth. So the second thing here, right? So I like to do this thought experiment with a lot of the brands that I speak to. So let's say you duplicate your store, and one has exact same traffic, AOV, conversion rate. One has amazing flows. They're long, they're very correct conditional splits. The copy is fantastic, design is fantastic. We're using conditional splits to make sure that the right people get the right message, or messages, I should say. And it has a 2% opt-in rate in the form. Then we take brand 2 that has okay flows, as in they're decent. They have a lot of room for improvement, but they're decent. And an 8% conversion rate in their pop-up. Who wins? Absolutely brand 2. Brand 2 wins in every single case. So once again, what we're starting with first is, okay, these both fall into the category of, are people getting our emails? Mm-hmm. Are they landing in the inbox, and are they landing in enough people's inboxes? So the first thing, and often, you see, like I said, how flows and campaigns come last, that often tricks people a little bit. When I say that to brands, they're like, okay, that's last. I'm like, yeah, because they'll focus on flows and campaigns. They know their flows need to be better. They know their campaigns need to be very good and very frequent. But sure. Then what they don't realize is that, well, you could have 25% more people getting into your welcome series if you actually just made a few tweaks to your pop-up. Like, do you realize that? That's obviously going to do far more than any tweak really to the welcome series itself past a point. Once it's in an okay position, if you have 25% more people getting it. And then same thing as well, you have diminishing returns to mailing the same people over and over again in your campaign. So if that list is growing really quickly, the overall freshness of the list is far greater, and you're getting far greater results out of your campaigns. So, I can go as well into how to increase that opt-in rate, just like I can go into improving deliverability. But the first thing we assess deliverability first, then we go into list growth. Then we kind of go on to the flows, many things within there. We could have a 2-hour podcast on all of these really. But these are on the Kensington Media House YouTube channel if you want to look up some guys there. It's on our YouTube channel, shameless self-plug. But that would be kind of in terms of having enough flows there, having the core flows there, having advanced flows there, making sure there are conditional splits within to make sure people are getting the right message and no one's getting the same flow twice, making sure the design is strong, the copy is strong, that we're varying the offers and content. So we're actually doing a lot of brand building while selling. And then we go into the campaigns. Yeah. Are we getting over 40% open rates? Are we getting above 0.5% click-through rates and below 0.2% unsubscribe rates while driving good revenue on our 180-day engaged segments? That's like the gold standard. And then also a lot of variation within the segments that you're sending to have some full list sends, so you're putting more people into your engaged segment, sending to your VIPs a few times a month, sending to, let's say, 14-day engaged a few times a month, just to bring up your overall deliverability score by kind of inflating your metrics for a short period of time and making sure that you're not discounting much at all. We use a lot of evergreen campaigns there, which are campaigns which can sell, can be used at any time of year and don't discount. So an example of that would be, let's say, a product education email, or would be the myth about your industry and how we're not really part of that myth, or we don't sort of propagate the myth a bit more. And that's kind of how we look at an account end to end. So we go through first deliverability to make sure that's in a good position. If it's not, we immediately look to improve that. And there are ways to do that in the short term, which can really, really change things in under 2 weeks. Make sure that our list growth is really strong. We do a lot of testing there with our clients as well, just to make sure that that's always getting better. And then we go into the flows, make sure they have good length, they're varying offers and content. They have the right conditional splits to make sure no one gets the same flow twice. And they have the core flows and advanced flows present, good design, good copy, and all of that. And then we have the campaigns, make sure the metrics are all strong, and that we're not really discounting at all in those, and that we're sending the right amount of frequency depending on the metrics that we're seeing. So I speak so fast, but yeah, there we go.
Not at all. No, it's such all gold. I think too many people jump straight to the end piece there and look at all the metrics first without diagnosing potentially where the problems could be in deliverability and in the list growth side of things, and just jumping straight to the end in what actually could just be vanity metrics. One of the pieces I like that you mentioned there was, evergreen campaigns that don't necessarily just plug discounts. It's really easy for an email marketing person to come into a new business, discount the hell out of it, drive revenue through the roof, and just burn the business long term. But I think I spoke to Conor G a couple of months ago, and one thing that stood out to me was the length of time that you guys tend to have your clients for. So if you were just coming in discounting the hell and yes, driving revenue through the roof for a short period of time, but eroding a lot of margin, obviously that wouldn't be a long-term sustainable strategy for any business. So I just think that's such an important piece as well. Just before we wrap, Conor, one last question. So we kind of obviously touched on Klaviyo there, and the first 3 things you might look at in a Klaviyo account. A lot has changed since you guys would have started Kensington. And the number of competitors, I suppose, to Klaviyo is definitely one thing that we do see quite active, particularly on DCT Twitter. Obviously MailChimp have kind of re-entered the market. Yotpo are back in the game, and obviously Sendlane being probably the loudest one and the most exciting one, personally, from what I can see anyway online. I know you were actually recently over in San Diego at a Sendlane event. just from somebody working in the industry, specifically in this niche, keen to hear your thoughts on where the market's at.
100%, yeah. So I think Klaviyo are implementing. I know, and for any Americans listening, I know objectively it is pronounced Klaviyo, but my accent is just it makes it so I cannot for the life of me just automatically say Klaviyo. I'm like, oh, that's very my mouth just doesn't do that. But I think there with the market. So I think Klaviyo are implementing a number of things which are, I think, pissing off their customers quite a lot. Obviously, they've IPO'd, so obviously you have an executive team coming in that are looking to just increase revenue any way they can. So they kind of are just going to squeeze every little bit of water out of that sponge and kind of kill the golden goose, or whatever way you want to put it. And obviously their prices have increased. They've moved everything to being storage-based pricing rather than usage-based pricing, which is absolutely bananas. They're implementing professional services, which are just very overpriced, probably low-quality agency services. But I wouldn't pay too much heed to that. But I think Sendlane are we're actually starting to talk to brands now where we're not even moving them to Sendlane. They're already on there. We just got introduced to one yesterday, or one just booked a call with us yesterday, who's already on Sendlane. Didn't see that 6 months ago. Now we're starting to see it. And I'm quite close with Jimmy, Nick, Sean, Orby, a lot of the team at Sendlane. We actually even make product suggestions in Slack sometimes when I was at the event in San Diego. This is, I think, the big difference in terms of the Sendlane and Klaviyo is that, there we go, Klaviyo, is that Sendlane keep their ear to the ground quite. They're very merchant focused, and they're very close with their agency partners like us. And so literally I was able to get a microphone at this event and give product suggestions in the room. And they were like, yeah, cool. And Orby, who's kind of the CTO for Sendlane, he was like, yeah, cool, take it on board. We'll add that to the queue of updates that we're making. I'm like, I don't even know who Klaviyo's CTO is. I don't even know his name, whereas, and here we have the Sendlane's CTO is on the stage and actually getting grilled by some people because they're very technical questions, and he's just there. And Orby's really lovely dude, and he's just like, yeah, cool, taken on board. I understand that. Here's where things are in the queue, and he's just highly technical questions, and he's just reading them off and kind of letting everyone know where the product's at, where the updates are coming. I can't talk to anyone at Klaviyo, and that's a huge difference between them. Sendlane own their own deliverability infrastructure as well, so they're not sitting on top of SendGrid or anything like that. So we're actually seeing really strong deliverability for our clients who are on Sendlane, which is a huge benefit. They don't take any margin on SMS also, so we implement SMS for a lot of our clients as well, and their SMS service is incredible, and they're not it's not crazily priced, maybe attentive for argument's sake. And then I think as well, one thing that I told them, because we also of course do work with a lot of UK clients, and we were the only European agency there, right, at the event. We're the only European agency partner there, so we're one of the founding partners with Sendlane, so we work very, very close with them. The room was all people from America and Canada, and so what I was saying to them was if you guys introduce WhatsApp, it would be when 50 Cent released in the game or in the club and just killed the whole rap game for a while. As in,
the Americans don't get that.
We don't use text.
All live on WhatsApp.
Yeah, because they all use iMessage and messages, right? So SMS works far better there than it does here. And I was saying this honestly would be 50 Cent releasing in the club, genuinely. If you guys so they had WhatsApp there, and I was bring that up the queue, and you will win the entire UK market. Trust me.
Yeah, huge.
And so they were like, oh damn, didn't know that, because like we said, it's e-com in general is just such an America centric kind of thing. So
massive.
So that was that's the difference. I see Sendlane eating the market within 18 months, to be honest. I actually see, because as well, right, Sean Frank from Ridge had this thing. I think Klaviyo have less than 5,000 customers paying them over 50 grand a year, something like that.
I saw that.
And so
that graphic.
Yeah, the proper enterprise customers, or no, paying them over 100 grand a year, something like that. And they're starting to really piss those people off. And it's kind of once again, it's one of those things you don't know till it's too late. So I think Klaviyo are obviously trying to move way more up market, and they're trying to veil what they're doing in different ways, saying, "Oh, we're just moving up market, doing all this," but you can see through it very easily, and kind of, I think before they get to that point where they can kind of cut agencies out and not need them, the agencies will have migrated most of their clients off there. So I think they've Klaviyo is an amazing platform, don't get me wrong, but like Sendlane's tech is now and over time it's going to be like just this, because they're very agency centric, very brand centric, customer centric. They're like, what suggestions are they actually getting? Like I said, I can literally send a Slack message to the CTO of Sendlane and be like, this annoyed me today, can you please change this?
And they're much better on socials as well.
Much better on socials. And bro, like their support, bro, Klaviyo support, so you're in like a queue for like half an hour just to get the most benign thing solved. And you can't even speak to someone live, whereas like Sendlane, you've like 24/7 live chat support, and they get on and they'll get into the account with you and fix things with you. And it's it's just worlds apart, worlds apart. And in terms of customer service, so I see, give it 18 months, Sendlane will be, the new sheriff in town.
Very interesting. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Conor, if people are looking to get in contact with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find us on YouTube. You can find us at Kensington Media House. You can find my LinkedIn, Conor Sunderland, Conor with one N, for just to make that nice and clear. Conor Gallagher then is my business partner. You can find us on LinkedIn. Just search Kensington Media House on LinkedIn. You can find us. Twitter is @ConorTrains, and yeah, you can find us there, KensingtonMediaHouse.com, if you want to chat to us, if you're a brand in that sort of position, and yeah, you can always reach out. Twitter, LinkedIn, DMs are always open. So
we'll put all the links in the show notes as well. Listen, Conor, really nice to chat to you. We'll catch up again very soon.
Thanks so much, Thomas. Absolute pleasure as always, and we'll be chatting.
Cheers.